The Triple Option is presented by Wendy's. Join Team Tendies and enjoy a lineup like never before. Crispy, juicy Tendies now at Wendy's. Good evening and welcome to the Triple Option, coming your way live following the release of the season's third college football playoff rankings. Rob Stone, Deuce, Mark Ingram, the coach, Urban Meyer here with you. As always, thanks for joining us. Remember to rate, subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on social media at 3X Option Show. New episodes come every Wednesday on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So a new one is coming tomorrow morning. A great interview with Heisman candidate Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. Elite interview, elite human
maybe
being.
Mark, maybe best.
Hey, it's top two and it ain't two.
We're going to be reacting live Tuesday nights after the rankings drop. Don't forget, leave questions, leave comments, and we can answer them. So let's fire it up on any given Saturday. So last week, we saw minimal movement in the playoff rankings. Definitely not the case this week. Remember, 7 ranked teams, including 2 in the top 10, Bama and Texas, fell. Ole Miss, Texas A&M barely escaped with victories, and for the second week in a row, the top group of 6 team fell. That was the University of South Florida. Quick reminder before we unveil everything. 12 teams make the playoffs. The 5 highest-ranked conference champions, regardless of the conference, get that automatic bid. The top 4 seeds, regardless if they're a conference champion or not, will get a first-round bye. So let's take a look at the rankings on the screen right now, and we'll get our immediate reaction, and we show you the top 12. So BYU and Utah are the first and second teams out once we show you the bracket. You see Alabama now. They took a slide down 6 spots, Mark, to number 10. Notre Dame again at number 9. They're at 8-2. Feels like they might be at their ceiling. Oklahoma rises 3. Oregon up 1. They're 9-1. We're going to talk about the Ducks. They have a huge test with USC that rose this week to number 15. Ole Miss sitting there at number 6. Texas Tech now inside the top 5. Georgia, they move up a spot because of Alabama's loss. And 1, 2, and 3, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M remains the same. Mark, I'll start with you, and we'll start with Alabama's slide down to number 10. How are you feeling about that position right now?
I mean, they deserve that. You go in and have 3 turnovers, botch, snap, hold, and kick. Yeah, when you lose a game like that and it's very self-inflicted against a good Oklahoma defense who, obviously forced the turnovers, obviously you're going to slide and you're going to be behind the team you lost to. So 2 losses, it's fair for them to be in there. They're lucky they're not lower. They can still control their own destiny as far as the playoff goes, because you dropped to that 11-12 spot, now you're in trouble because obviously the group of 6 gets promoted. Big 12 champs going to be in there. So that 10 spot ultimately lets them control their own destiny still with this ranking that they gave them. So they deserve it, but they still got everything to play for ahead of them.
Still in position to get themselves back to the playoffs. Coach, what jumped out to you this week?
Every time I look at this, I just wish I was coached in this era. I look at some of the great teams I had that lost a game and they're out. And I'm looking, these teams are all still alive. I mean, there's got to be paths taken and all that, but great players are still playing. Fan bases are still engaged. I am all into the CFP era.
Coach, USC still in this thing.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
I'm going to tell you this, Mark. I think if they beat Oregon,
they're in there. They'll be in the top.
They're in, and I think Oregon might be out.
Yeah.
Because you look at they have no wins.
Yeah.
And this committee, here's what I'm going to say too, is I think we need to keep looking at reform, and I think CFP and the committee's doing great. This is not a shot. I loved when the Big Ten and Tony Petitti came up with that 4-4-2-2-1-1, where basically all the committee did was seed.
Yeah.
The Big Ten got a certain amount of teams, and they were playing games. The SEC, the Big 12, you wish it would somehow equate it, but I just don't know how a committee. I'm looking at this, and, I'm going to make a point on Big Noon that if I'm BYU, I'm probably going to lose. They got to beat Cincinnati. But if I'm the head coach, in my mind, I not only got to win, I got to win big.
Yeah.
Because the style points, there's people sitting in that room watching these scores that really can't watch the game because they really don't know what they're watching. I'm not being disrespectful, but they're going to look at a score. and say, okay, not only win, but win with style points. That's why I'm hoping someday there's the play-in by conferences, and it's very simple. You play yourself into it. You're not relying on people making decisions on who's in, who's out. Decisions are made on the field.
The Big 12 is sitting there with 3 teams in the top 12. You know, BYU, they win. They get a rematch with Texas Tech. If they beat Texas Tech, both teams go. And then Utah sitting there at 12. You know, the group of 6 isn't in this bracket. So one team is sliding out.
Yeah.
So
these are just the rankings. Let's show you the bracket right now. And the group of 6 team is Tulane sitting there at the top left. They are your 12 seed, and they are taking on, speaking of the Big 12, as of now, Texas Tech, your number 5 seed. But Mark, it's a great point because there's Texas Tech all the way up there at 5, and BYU has great value. Imagine if BYU wins the round 2, the head-to-head in the conference championship, which would mean
they both
BYU's going.
Yeah, they're both in.
And now Texas Tech is going to get in as well. That's
My
a
question,
win. And even Utah, if things
thought.
fall down, Utah can sneak in.
Keep that thought. First of all, BYU, I don't know if they can. We've seen. I think Texas Tech is one of the top teams in the country.
They got
I think
straight
they're
hammered by
SEC caliber.
Texas Tech.
They're real. I'm just saying, does a BYU loss in the Big 12 championship game? Do they get in? With their only quality win, their only quality win is Utah, which is a quality win.
Yeah, but then you say if they lose 2 times to Tech, does Utah jump them with 1 loss?
Utah might jump them, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. The ACC is intriguing. Again, Miami right now holding on to that number 11 spot in the bracket because they are the highest seeded ACC team. But remember,
the ACC champ is going to go, so they might get bumped.
It's a big stretch for Miami to even get to the ACC championship game. So now you're saying, can Miami keep moving up and somehow hold on to a spot regardless if the ACC champion is not them? And now we're talking, do 2 ACC teams get in? That's a big one. And again, Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. That Notre Dame head-to-head game is going to be massive. Notre Dame sitting there at the number 9 spot in the bracket. And with what they have left on their schedule, they're at their current ceiling. I don't know how they get any higher unless there's just full-on chaos ahead of them. But they're not going to earn their ticket higher. It's going to have to be somebody falling out.
But that's a good point, though. Like, Miami beat Notre Dame, and they're sitting there behind them in the rankings, you know? I think it's just the timing of the losses, you know what I mean? But everyone else, prior to this week, the head-to-heads were ahead of their people that they beat. Yeah. Alabama was ahead of Georgia. Georgia was ahead of Ole Miss. And Notre Dame was sitting there ahead of Miami, even though Miami won the head-to-head. So, still interesting, man. A lot of movement, man, that's going to be taking place here. But look how big that Alabama loss is, though. You go from having a first-round bye to having to go to Eugene, Oregon, to Austin. Like, every game matters. Every game counts. So
that's a big swing. I want to hit a topic here, Coach. I'm going to tee it up here. I know you want to talk about it. I'm looking at the top 25 teams. The SEC has 9 in the top 25, 5 in the top 10, 5 in the bracket. So as of now, 5 SEC teams are going. Yeah. Earlier in the season, we were saying how strong, how mighty the Big Ten was. This week, there are 6 Big Ten programs inside the top 25, 3 in the top 7, 3 in the bracket. It definitely is starting to feel like the SEC is separating itself from the Big Ten.
It is. They're back. Obviously, they got to go win the national title. But as far as strength and depth of conference, you know, it would hard to say even the last 2 years with Ohio State and the Wolverines winning the national championship, that top to bottom, certainly the top was won by the Big Ten. And I watch a lot of it. I watch it on TV, but I also flip it on my computer. It's different, Mark. The SEC's back as the top conference in college football. I look at Alabama's schedule, and I know I listen to you every week talk about them. It's every week, man.
It's every week.
I mean, it's every week. And there's somehow, how do you quantitatively, as a committee member, say what? And you're seeing teams that have played no one.
Right.
I shouldn't say no one, but relatively speaking to the SEC schedule.
Well, Coach, Ohio State, what do they have? A win over Texas. That's it.
Coach, we were just talking earlier. You're talking about Ohio State having a load management.
Yeah.
Like, imagine.
You think Coach DeBoer, let's get him on podcast and ask him about load management. He's going to say, what the F are you talking about? I'm trying to win a game.
Yeah.
Same with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, let's talk to Lane Kiffin about load management. And he's
Hey,
going to
by
be
the way,
like,
Ohio State into Indiana, right? Sitting there on that collision course to the Big Ten championship game in a couple Saturdays in Indianapolis, 1-2. And again, they are in load management mode. Indiana's on a bye week. Again, we're going to talk to Fernando Mendoza on the triple option tomorrow. Ohio State, they have Rutgers at home. And then, of course, the game at Michigan the following Saturday. One program not listed here in the top 25, but a program that used to be in national title contention, Virginia Tech. The Hokies today making a big move. They filled their vacancy at head coach as they pulled former Penn State coach James Franklin down to Blacksburg. This news, Mark, had been coming. We had heard about it on Saturday, and they finally closed the deal here on Tuesday. You think this is a good move for both parties?
I think, go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark.
No, you go ahead, Coach. You the coach.
Yeah. I don't think it's a good one. It's a great one.
Great one.
Yep. I'm a James Franklin fan. I coached against him. You know, it's all well documented about the top of the food chain. He just couldn't quite get there, but a lot of people did. He's still a quality coach that won a high percentage of his games at a tough spot. I think it's a great. I wrote this down here, Mark, and I'll let you kind of run with it. But I have Dan Lanning, Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley, Sharon Moore, Venerables, Freeman. These are all the hot shot coordinators that got jobs. Back when I was a young coach, Mark, you had to go to the MAC.
Yeah.
You had to go to the smaller conferences and work your way up because that was very rare. I think Bob Stoops was one of the first ones to ever go from a coordinator to a blue blood. It just didn't happen. And then you have the old, you got Lane Kiffin, Sark, James Franklin, DeBoer, Signetti, Elko. I just was writing down, these are guys that have worked their way up, they're established coaches. So, and I have friends that are assistant ADs and behind the scenes talking to them a little bit. That's a hell of a decision right now. Yeah. The hot shot coordinators at Oregon, 2 excellent coordinators. How about the hot shot coordinators at Indiana? What about Brian Hartline? Those guys normally would do what? They would go take a Bowling Green job, a Toledo job, a Memphis, a Houston, like Tom Herman did when he left Ohio State, and then Texas would go get them. Because of salaries, Mark, you're not going to the MAC anymore.
Right.
You're going to take you're going to go from $2 million to $500,000. You can't do that to your family
with no stability.
So now an AD has to pull the string on a guy that he really doesn't know, and it's a complex world out there right now because of. Do you go with established guy that maybe, the fan base is like, why? There's a Manny Diaz who's a hell of a coach, but he failed at Miami. Do you take an Al Golden? He failed at Miami. Do you take it, or do you go get a young guy that, like, when they did, Coach Day, when they did that, Lincoln Riley, Kirby Smart, Lanning, and then of course Marcus Freeman. That worked out great. Do you take a young gun that without the experience, or do you go with the person that sat in the chair before?
Well, yeah, I think this was a great job for Virginia Tech, and shout out to, Coach James Franklin. We knew he would land on his feet quick, especially with all these job openings, but Virginia Tech is a place that's known to have a tradition, known to have a history. When I was growing up, Virginia Tech was like one of the premier places in college football, and so for them to get a guy who has been nothing but a winner, a guy who is a culture changer, a program changer, just kind of, ran out of juice in Penn State. It was kind of like a partner that they had to have. But at the end of the day, man, he's still a winner and a great coach and a great human being. I think he's a great asset for that program down there in Blacksburg, a program who's trying to get back to supremacy, not in college football, but also the ACC.
And guess what? Now they know what they're doing. Now they know what their path is, and now they can start recruiting, and now they can start pulling in players. And again, there's all these programs out there who don't have a head coach right now, and a lot of those dudes are ready to hit the portal and go, and you can start poaching and start building your team right now. And again, there's all these vacancies out there, guys, right now.
Who are they going to hire, Stone?
That's my point. Who are they going to hire? And I'm not saying there's not qualified people out there, but some of these programs, the LSU's, the Floridas, the Penn States, these are like career goals to get there, right? Like, this is open in my lifetime. That is amazing. And if the candidate is not there, and we have seen so much change in college football the last couple of years, it would not surprise me in the least if one of these programs, and I'm not saying it's going to be an LSU or Florida or some of these others, but if somebody out there just says, you know what? We don't have the guy or gal in line that we want right now. And we're going to kick that can down for another year, and we're going to sit and we're going to have somebody be an interim again. Because who knows? Who knows? But do you think? I know, Coach. Do you think Virginia Tech thought a James Franklin would be available this year? No chance. They thought they'd be watching him in December and January fight for a national title. So maybe a program out there is going to be like, you know what? Wide receiver coach, D coordinator, why don't you handle this for another year? Maybe you earn it. Maybe you get your stripes. And we sit and wait for something maybe that's better to fall into our lap.
It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be
crazy.
some more fire coaches getting hired, too. A little shuffling of the, chess pieces.
Yeah, this was just a minor chip. I don't mean that I don't mean that to.
This only November 18th, Stone. We got a lot. It's about to get crazy, dog.
I know it is. Big noon kickoff headed to Cincinnati this weekend. BYU in town. Coming up on tomorrow's Triple Option podcast, we go 3 and out. We talk about great comebacks. And again, I know we said at the beginning, we're going to say it to close again. Fernando Mendoza.
Man.
What do we call him?
Heisman
Mendoza. What a great interview. You're really going to love that coming your way tomorrow.
I'm going to
on the
say this.
Triple
I'm
Option.
going to say this too. That's one of the best football conversations I've ever had.
Oh,
that was
the
tremendous.
kid knows exactly what he's talking about.
He
knows
barked that
his
shit out. I love that dude.
He knew his coverages. He knew his man beaters.
If you like
his zone
football,
beaters.
listen to Mendoza.
If you are a scout, you need to listen to this interview.
If you're a GM,
yes, a
head
GM
coach, an owner, you need to listen to the Triple Option coming your way tomorrow. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. We're also available on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow on the Triple Option presented by Wendy's.
Peace.